So we've been talking about in his recent Israeli politics, ministers, a minister is a sar, and judges, a judge is a shofet. So it's interesting to start just from this pasuk in the parasha read by most synagogues today, Parashat Shmot, where when Moshe is going around and sort of visiting his people, he's intervening in a dispute between two Jews, and one of them says, Vayomer mi samcha leish sar v'shofet aleinu. So, who made you a prince and a judge over us? That is the question exactly that's being asked right now, right? Like that's who gets to make who a minister, who gets to make him a judge, and on what basis? And that question here is being posed to Moshe by another Hebrew, and so it really is kind of by analogy, the question is being put as though Moshe represents the Torah that he's going to bring. Like, who made the Torah the one that can sit in judgment over us? Like, why should our judges be accountable to the Torah? Like, why should Moshe's judgment be the one that people are concerned about? And how is that determined? And what it points to, I think, is that this question has always been one for the nation from the beginning, meaning that it would be nice if it were just as simple as saying the people want to be brought out of Mitzrayim, and so Moshe shows up, he has lots of miraculous support from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and everyone just jumps in line, and now we have a people that all want to keep the Torah together. But we know that the story doesn't go that way, that bringing the people out of Mitzrayim is a process, and then once they're in the Midbar, getting them to come to grips with the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu only brought them out of Mitzrayim in order to serve him according to his Torah, and having to face that's a very difficult and lengthy process, getting people to accept. And it's not something Moshe on his own has an easy time with. But I think that there's actually another passage in the Torah that comes earlier that this one kind of echoes. And interestingly, it's one that I think really more directly relates to the question of what the relationship between this is and democracy. So here we have a moment where Moshe is being asked, who made you judge, right? And this is a discussion within the Hebrew nation that is pertinent because Moshe is kind of experimenting with the question of whether he can kind of get involved in politics or not, as he's begun to do. So if we go way back, hundreds of years earlier to the generation of Avraham Avinu, there's another person who gets kind of accused for acting like a judge, and that is Lot. Lot in stone is refusing to cooperate with a mob of people who surrounded his house because he has guests in his house, and the mob is unhappy with that. So he brings the guests into his house. He's making them a feast with matzot, interestingly, with unleavened bread that evokes Yetziat Mitzrayim. And this is not just a casual observation. Rashi himself says on that pasuk, Pesach Haya, so we're meant to actually think, according to Rashi, about connecting this to Mitzrayim. And what it says is, Terem yishkavu v'anshe ha'ir anshe stom nasabu al habayit min'ar v'ad zaken kol ha'am mikatzeh. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of stone, compassed the house round, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. V'yikru elot ויאמרו לו, איה האנשים אשר באו אליך הלילה, הוציאם אלינו ונדע אותם. So they came to Lot and they said to him, where are the men that came into you this night? Bring them out to us so we may know them. And then Lot refuses. ויצא לוט עליהם לוט הפתחה והדלת סגר אחריו ויאמר Al na'hai tera'u. And Lot went to them and shut the door, and he said, please do not do so wickedly. And he, offers his daughters, etc. And he's saying, like, these people have come under the shadow of my roof. Please don't do this to them. And then what do the people of Sodom say? So they said, stand back. This fellow came to stay among us, and he's now trying to play the judge. So now we'll deal worse with you than with them. So that's the pasuk I'm trying to underline. This is another instance where someone is kind of getting involved in principle in a place where he doesn't have to, right? Like, no one has a problem with Lot yet. They're just saying, bring out your guests so that we may either examine them or perhaps rape them, or all these different ways that you read the text. And Lot is deciding that he wants to resist, and he's interposing himself. And because he's interposed himself, now suddenly people are saying, wait, who are you to stand in judgment over us? And now we're very angry, and we're going to deal very badly with you for acting as though you're a judge who's trying to put the brakes on what we're trying to do. Now, what I find interesting about this passage, and it has to be admitted, and I say this as someone who is quite comfortable with proposals to reform the Supreme Court in this current instance at this moment in the history of Israeli society and government. But nonetheless, it is interesting to me that what is the democracy that's going on here? What's the majority vote that's going on here in Sodom, right? Because I think Sodom is actually maybe one of the best proof texts in the Torah itself for a kind of a general study of what you get from majority rule. The men of the city compassed the house round, both young and old, all the people from every quarter, right? So there's this lengthy description saying basically, okay, this is the city of Sodom. And the city of Sodom is the emblem of a kind of a prosperous society, as we learn elsewhere in the Torah, that in this case, what we're being told has a very strong majority position on what they want to do with these guests who are coming to Lot's house. So Lot came there because it was Kegan Hashem Keretz Mitzrayim Kulam Ashker, right? There was like water everywhere. It looked like a very prosperous and paradisical place. And now that he's there, what he's seeing is that there's a dynamic here such that a majority of the people in the city want to do what he sees as something that's terribly wrong. And he's getting in their way, and as far as they're concerned, acting like a judge, saying, wait, just because you all want to do this, please don't, that this is wrong. And they're saying to him, like, who are you to play the judge? This is what we want to do. Like, get out of our way. So the dynamic of the current situation that's being described is one where the whole city, everyone, right? This is if 99% of the people voted and said, we all want to rape these people, or whatever it is that they want to do, right? Whatever kind of reading you give to Winida'autam, right? And we will know them, whether it's that they want to kick down the door and sort of check whether they have their passports, or whether it's something sexual, as people sometimes imply, or whether it's something else, whatever it is, they're demanding that right as the strong majority of the city. And this poses the question, like, can it be wrong? Can it be wrong if the entire society agrees on something, for them to want to do something to a few individuals? Can it be wrong for them to do that? And Lot's reaction, and I think also, let's say, the sympathy we're meant to have in the text, kind of from the cooperation with Lot of these malachim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like it gives you the sense that Lot is on the side of right here and telling them they can't have what they want and they can't do what they want. That majority rule by itself can lead to a terrible thing, and that sometimes someone who puts himself in a position of judgment over the majority and says, wait, no, you can't do this, right? This is somehow against convention, it's against mores, it's against the norms or whatever, it's against our values, or whatever kind of standard someone's invoking, they can be in the right against the majority. So I think that has to be acknowledged at the outset, right? That if we're reading from the Torah is not telling us majority rule all the way. And it's not telling us never could it be the case that someone who wants to act as a judge could be right, even though he disagrees with the majority, and even though he wasn't elected by the majority and he's not representing the majority, right? That there's something kind of other than the people of stone that Lord represents, but he might still be right. And that has to be acknowledged in this current discussion, that people are having about the Supreme Court in Israel, because we're not going to get to the right place that we need to get to simply by saying, oh, well, more majority rule is better. Who are these fools for standing in the way of majority rule? However, as I said before, the flip side of that is that there's another problem with the current situation, which is that the judges are not accountable to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're not accountable to the Torah. They don't claim about the activity that they're engaged in, that they are getting their standards from places that are acceptable ones for digging in one's heels and pushing back against the majority. So wherever they're getting their standards from, sometimes it's not at all clear. Sometimes it seems very clear they're getting their standards from, so to speak, foreign gods. And so that too is a problem, which also may not necessarily be corrected, just by increasing majority rule, but maybe, in some cases, it can be.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.